He's a nobody.
Ever read the Odyssey? After Odysseus was caught by the Cyclops, he told it his name was Nobody. So when he poked its eye out and its friends asked who did it, all the Cyclops could say was, nobody.
Point taken.
Yeah, that scene was not in the film. The scene itself was still awesome though. Now, I am a first-time viewer of anything related to the Odyssey. I have never seen Troy as a kid, even though I wanted to, but I wasn't allowed because I was too young at the time, and I just never seemed to go back to it. And the most time I have ever spent with Greek gods is when I murdered the shit out of them in God of War. Also, just a heads up, I'll be using a lot of screenshots in this review, because when it comes to copyright claims, Universal are... And just so I'm clear... So there. I'm sorry you all had to hear that, but it had to be said. So, with my detailed breakdown and frustration with Universal aside, let's talk the Odyssey, Christopher Nolan's new movie. So, what did I like about this movie? Well, first off, Christopher Nolan. Despite all the high-profile actors in this movie, he is the real star of this film. And true to his ways, it's so great knowing that a story as big as the Odyssey has so many in-camera and practical effects. Even the ones you'd think are full CG, like this whirlpool shot in the ocean, is practical. With some visual effects work to help it, but it's mostly practical. And even the Cyclops is done with forced perspective camera tricks as well as animatronics. Most of these are old school filmmaking techniques that Hollywood used to incorporate but have since abandoned in favor of CGI. And it really puts the rest of Hollywood under the microscope. If Christopher Nolan is able to make a movie in 3 years with this level of practicality with his filmmaking, then what are the other movies' excuse? I really hate how these big blockbusters have these massive budgets and yet look so fake. They use tons of CGI where they don't need to and tons of green screen. Even their darker shots lack depth like they used to because it's all artificial and done in the computer now. But Christopher Nolan sticks to how movies used to do it, which is the far superior method. In the Odyssey, every location is practical, and all the stunts of when people are being thrown around is real. Not a single CG double for the actors. Another thing modern movies have mostly replaced with CGI. And I hate how it's the exception with Nolan movies and not the rule. But this is how movies should be made. The movie was also pretty well paced. It didn't feel like a nearly 3-hour film, which is always good. The acting was good in the movie too. Everyone did a very good job, but I wasn't blown away. Zendaya was just fine. She wasn't perfect or anything, so I don't know why that turned out to be such a big deal. It's very much acting you have come to expect in more modern day Christopher Nolan films, and performances you have come to expect from these actors. That is, except for Robert Pattinson. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This guy is a chameleon. From Good Times to Tenet to Mickey 17 and to the Batman, he massively transforms in each role. And he's the same here as well. And as soon as he comes on screen, he exhibits this pompous and snivelly character. And again, you completely forget this is Robert Pattinson. He played Batman recently. You just want him to get his ass beat. The way he treats Tom Holland and keeps trying to move in on his mother, it's amazing how he's able to play these different characters so well. I even saw a trailer to Dune 3 at the screening, which he is also gonna be in, and he looks to be doing a great job there too. If this was the only movie you saw Robert Pattinson in, you'd never think he could play Batman. And likewise, if the Batman was the only movie you saw, then you'd never think he could play Antinous. Now, I have been curious to see what a horror film from Christopher Nolan would look like, and there's been a lot of talk about 2 horror scenes in this movie. One with the Cyclops, which was really cool and intense and loud, and the other involving some pigs. That's all I'm gonna say, and both of them were really well done. The pig one in particular was disturbing, and again, all practical. And there are a ton of practical effects where you're like, how did they do that? But the scene with the pigs, I knew exactly how he was doing that. I've watched a lot of 80s and 90s horror movies and their behind the scenes stuff, so I was well versed with the tricks that Nolan was using. And it was cool to see him go back to these old filmmaking techniques. And both of these horror scenes showed some good and bad sides to Odysseus's leadership. And the action was well done too. It wasn't perfect. I thought the swordplay in the final action scene could have had improvements, but on the whole, it worked well within the movie and it all had a lot of good tension. And it's all helped massively by the score for the movie, which is really effective. The only downside is that although the score works for the movie, it isn't something I would want to listen to on its own. As for the stuff I didn't like, I didn't love the characters. Now, it's not that they don't have character, they have their goals and emotional turmoil and depth in their writing, but they don't have much personality, and as a result, I found them kind of dull. And it's this dullness with their personalities that I found myself just not caring all that much for them. Robert Pattinson was the only one who had the most personality, but everyone else felt very subdued, including Tom Holland. I feel like he's just not that caliber of actor. I've seen him in one movie where he was really good, but aside from that, I've never seen him go to that place again. I mean, he is capable of it, but he just plays another younger kid here, and there was a good moment or two he had, particularly where he had to cry, but aside from that, his performance was just fine. And although the pacing of the overall story is good, the pacing of the scenes is not. There are so many cuts in the middle of our characters when they are talking, and it's too much. They are over-edited. There are also many times when characters are talking and it cuts to silent flashback footage, and it's a lot to keep up with at points. Editing is supposed to be seamless, and Nolan has accomplished that in the past, but he didn't nail it here. If anything, I feel like Nolan made the movie feel like you had to focus more than you have to, just so you can maintain the continuity and the various different flashbacks. Something I have also noticed Christopher Nolan has increasingly been doing lately is that he doesn't let dialogue scenes breathe like he used to in his earlier films. Now they are always fast-paced whilst being edited and played off to music that's constantly building in the background. I have long felt this, and I noticed it here too. It seems like there's an insecurity in Nolan that has developed in the latter half of his career. It's like he's afraid that his audience is gonna get bored, so he has to make it feel like every scene is building to something. Hence, he has the quick cut editing and intense music in the background of even normal conversation scenes. And he never used to have this insecurity, but he does now. The film is also rated R and a 15 here in the UK, and I only found this out days before I went to see the movie, funnily enough. So after my excitement with Oppenheimer being rated R, only for it to consist of a couple F words and nudity, how does Nolan handle this R rating? Pretty well, actually. It's much better than Oppenheimer, but it's still not a complete win. It's a 50-50 split. The movie bizarrely does a mix of PG-13 and R-rated action. Some of it is shot like he's hiding the violence so it can fit a PG-13, and other violence has some blood splats and is more graphic. It's a weird combination. It's like the movie is constantly changing its mind, but I think the R rating was handled relatively well in this movie. Not great, but much better than his last attempt. So overall, I thought this was a good movie. Christopher Nolan clearly knows how to make a movie, how to build tension, how to make it feel big and grand in scope, but his characters is what really failed him in the end. I didn't care as much as I should have, and the over-editing also got quite distracting. But I still had a good time. Christopher Nolan's movies always feel like an event, and the Odyssey is no different. And despite my complaints, I was still glad that I went to see it. So my score for the Odyssey is a 7 out of 10. If he worked on the characters and the editing, then the movie would have definitely gotten a higher score.